So what was the issue that made you realize, or maybe it was a couple of issues, but what was the issue that made you realize that there were things that you couldn't cover even at that small outlet where you were working?
Yeah, so I just got that sense. There's not one specific incident that I could really point to, but I just noticed that I was not going to be able to do what I wanted to do in a mainstream sphere. I would at least get a lot of pushback, and it it was just not going to work out for me. And also the educational institutions, while they're great and I have learned a lot throughout my time, they definitely push you to become a mainstream corporate journalist to basically rewrite press releases, and that's just not journalism. So there wasn't really one incident. It was something that happened slowly over time.
Hmm. What does journalism mean to you? Like I'm not trying to sound horrendously like philosophical, but like what in your mind, what is like great journalism? Like what does that mean?
Yeah, great journalism is work that is feared by the establishment. It is work that is, number one, true and factual, and is, I guess, being a journalist to me is really about serving the public. My duty is to the public, and it's not to necessarily influence people one way or another, but just to provide them with the information that they need to know to live a better life, I guess. Um, so they can make better, more informed choices. Because right now, a lot of the information that people are getting is one sided, and it's not the full story. Oftentimes, it's just one accepted point of view.
Hmm.
So I guess being a journalist in journalism is about also whistleblowing, and it's about exposing corruption and power in the interest of the public.
Hmm. I mean, we're going to get on to free speech, but like, why is that dissent and that difference of opinion and outlook and people coming at things from many different angles? Like, why do you feel that's so important?
Well, I think it goes back to a bigger idea of censorship, which we are seeing very much right now, both on social media and also on various platforms like YouTube. And because of that, we've seen other platforms arise from this censorship. And I'm going to go back to a quote that Julian Assange said, and he said that censorship reveals fear, and it really does. So I think that it's important to have a wide range of perspectives. Not to get too much into COVID, I don't want to do that. But one thing that is happening, I'm speaking with a lot of scientists and medical doctors who have a different perspective that's not being portrayed in the mainstream press. They're not even saying that they're 100% correct or sure of it. They're pretty sure, but they want to have a discussion with their colleagues who hold more mainstream views, and that's not even being allowed to happen right now, and that's not a good thing. There should be more information out there. I think the best solution is more speech, not less speech. I know everybody says that, but it's true. We need to have debates and discussions, and people need to be challenged, and that's not happening right now.
Mm. Yeah, I mean the lack of willingness to have a discussion about the other side of an issue is something that it seems to constantly come up in the modern day is really weird. I because most of the time I feel like if if you believe that someone doesn't understand the topic, so say like hypothetically I'm talking to someone and I'm like, well, you're wrong because you don't get it. My natural instinct is to want to explain why I believe they are wrong or explain what I understand about it, and then have them, either disagree, point out some flaws, suggest that I might be wrong, but at least that dialogue takes place. And it's something that I've noticed over the past few years is that dialogue and discussion, I think that Julian Assange quote is fantastic actually, it's become like discussion is like a dangerous suggestion on some topics now for some people. That's terrifying.
It is, yeah. And what is happening too is that these big tech CEOs and people in positions of power are trying to say that online speech or information could lead to real world harm. While that could be true in some very extreme and limited circumstances, they're applying this broad brush across the board. And we're seeing censorship, as I said, so rampant just about everywhere. And again, it goes back to COVID too. It's just a great example of there being only one accepted narrative and viewpoint.
Hmm. Yeah, and when I get my real tinfoil hat on, I go, my head immediately goes, so why is that the thing that we can't discuss? And I get myself in a lot of trouble when I have thoughts like that. But why do you think that free expression and discussion is so crucial? And why do you think that the realization that the right to have free expression, you don't have to agree with me, but even just the ability for us to have, opposing viewpoints and still maintain respect for each other is sort of undervalued in modern society?
I think it's a good question. I think that it is undervalued, and we're also living, unfortunately, in an era where everybody is so offended by the most minor things. If you disagree with somebody, that person is automatically a right wing Nazi or propagandist. These ideas are just so drastic. They're so black and white thinking, and people that view things differently than us, we can't just demonize them as having ridiculous beliefs. While some beliefs are, in my view, ridiculous, when we're talking about just issues of left or right, we need to be able to have discussions. Expression is such a fundamental right that is recognized, I think, in every country in the world almost. Uh, it is so fundamental to our existence and ability to make positive, meaningful change. You do that by having access to information and having more ideas out into the public, not less, because essentially when there's less, it's really just a perspective that's only going to benefit the elite and the ruling class and the establishment, not the public in general.
One of the things I've been kind of stunned about actually through this last year is there seems to be this, I don't know, wall, barrier, I don't know what you call it. So if you say to someone, okay, do you believe that politicians are at least somewhat corrupt? And they'll go, yeah, obviously. And they'll be like, okay, great. Then you'll go, okay, do you think they would lie for personal benefit or the benefit of their donors? And someone will say, yeah, of course, they're corrupt. And you go, okay, would they lie about anything to do with COVID or the response in order to benefit themselves or their donors? And then it's just like, oh, no. What has happened there? Why do people find it so difficult to be skeptical in this particular realm?
Because what's happened is that they have made everybody feel as if they're responsible for another person's health. And while that is somewhat true, we've never applied this logic really in any other type of with any other type of virus. So for example, during flu season, we're not telling every single person that every single person must be vaccinated in order for all of us to be safe. We're not saying that, but we're saying it right now, which is very strange. And so what's happening is that people are feeling like they are responsible for other people's deaths, essentially. And to kind of speak out against that comes, the media has painted people who do speak out as being cold, narcissistic, selfish, and the list goes on. So there's been some demonization of people who think differently in the media. And then also too, the doctors and scientists who are highly qualified professionals who have been providing their expert opinion that goes contrary to what's being discussed in the mainstream, they're being smeared and silenced, and to discredit them. And in my view, based off of the work I've done, especially covering Julian Assange's case and Craig Murray's case, is that the people I feel that we can trust, not all the time, but a lot of the time, are the people who are actually being smeared and silenced versus the people who are being propped up by the establishment. Based off of my experience, little experience so far, but based off of that experience, that is my view at this point.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.